At 11:47 a.m. on a Friday, a man who controlled an entire city was no longer in charge of anything. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't running. He was sitting in a federal holding cell, stripped of power, stripped of immunity, stripped of the illusion that had protected him for nearly 8 years. His name was Héctor Villarreal. To the public, he was the mayor of Tijuana, a smiling reformer, a ribbon cutter, a man who promised roads, jobs, and stability. But to federal investigators, he had a different name: Asset November 7, the highest-ranking municipal official ever confirmed to be operating as a direct command node for a cartel's border smuggling empire. And what they found inside his private compound didn't just expose corruption. It forced two governments to quietly rewrite how they cooperate on crime. Because buried beneath his house was proof that this wasn't about drugs. It was about how a cartel bought an entire city, rewired its police force, and turned U.S. disaster relief money into cartel operating capital. And if you think that's where it ends, you haven't heard what was in the basement. Before we go any further, save this video. Stories like this don't stay up forever, because this isn't a story about one corrupt politician. This is the story of how power disappears without anyone noticing. And it all began hours earlier on the U.S. side of the border.
Of witness tampering and intimidation, murder, money laundering, and drug trafficking.
At 4:17 a.m., 3 blocks from the San Diego-Tijuana border, 46 federal agents stood in silence inside a secured parking structure. No radios, no chatter, just fog rolling in from the Pacific, turning streetlights into blurred halos of white and amber. This wasn't a normal operation. There were FBI agents from the Cross-Border Criminal Enterprises Task Force, DEA Special Response Teams, Homeland Security Investigations Units, and standing with them, quietly, deliberately, was a liaison cell from the Mexican Secretariat of National Defense. That detail matters because this was not an American strike. This was a coordinated takedown, approved at the highest levels on both sides of the border. One wrong move here didn't just mean a shootout, it meant an international incident. The mission had a name: Operation Iron Curtain. 2 years of covert financial tracking, intercepted communications, shell companies peeled back one by one, and all of it pointed to a single conclusion investigators didn't want to believe at first. The cartel wasn't bribing the city. The cartel was the city. At 4:32 a.m., 6 strike teams crossed into Tijuana through pre-cleared corridors. No sirens, no lights. Their first target wasn't a warehouse. It wasn't a lab. It wasn't a smuggling tunnel. It was the mayor's home. If you're watching this anywhere near the border, drop your city in the comments. This story is closer to home than most people realize, because overlooking Tijuana, in the hills above the city, sat a property cartel members referred to by one name only: the mayor's palace. And what waited inside would change everything.
The compound didn't look like government housing. It looked like a fortress. 12-foot walls, surveillance cameras on every corner, private security contractors rotating shifts like a military unit. Armored SUVs lined the circular driveway. On paper, the property belonged to a corporation registered in the Cayman Islands. In reality, every cartel operator in Baja California knew exactly who it belonged to. This was where strategy meetings happened. This was where routes were approved. This was where problems disappeared. According to intercepted messages, Mayor Villarreal was inside that night, hosting a late-session meeting with senior cartel logistics coordinators. At 4:41 a.m., the breach began. Flashbangs detonated at 3 entry points simultaneously. Steel-reinforced doors came down under hydraulic rams. Federal agents poured through smoke and chaos, weapons raised, commands overlapping in Spanish and English. The private security froze. They recognized federal tactical gear, and they understood resistance was pointless. Cartel members in the main salon dropped encrypted phones and ran for exits that were already sealed. Upstairs, agents moved toward a polished mahogany office overlooking the city. Inside, they found Héctor Villarreal, calm, seated, hands folded neatly on the desk.
In front of him, a wall of monitors displayed live security feeds of the raid unfolding throughout his own house. He didn't protest. He didn't panic. He looked up and spoke in perfect English. "Have you coordinated this action with the appropriate authorities?" The lead agent, a 22-year FBI veteran, didn't hesitate. "The appropriate authorities," she said, "are the ones putting you in handcuffs." That was the moment the illusion broke. Phones, laptops, tablets, 3 external hard drives hidden behind a false bookshelf panel, 2 handguns, one with the serial number filed off, $73,000 in cash inside a desk drawer. But none of that mattered, because the house didn't end at ground level, and the agents hadn't even reached the part of the property that was never supposed to exist. Pause for a second. Does this look like a public servant to you? Because what they found downstairs wasn't storage, it was a command center. And once they opened that door, there was no walking this story back.
The staircase wasn't marked on any blueprint, no permits, no records, no architectural filings with the city. Agents found it behind a reinforced steel door disguised as a utility wall. When it opened, the temperature dropped. Not because it was underground, because the space was climate controlled. What waited below wasn't storage, it was a command center. Wall-mounted monitors lit the room in a cold blue glow. Live camera feeds from border crossings, truck depots, warehouse interiors, even what looked like tunnel entrances beneath industrial buildings. A central operations table sat in the middle of the room, layered with laminated maps, routes highlighted in different colors, time windows marked down to the minute, coded identifiers only cartel logisticians would recognize. This wasn't surveillance for protection, this was traffic control. And then agents reached the second door, solid steel, keypad access, biometric lock. When it opened, even the most experienced investigators stopped moving, because stacked from floor to ceiling, lining industrial shelving units like a warehouse inventory, was cash. Not loose bills, bundled stacks, organized by denomination, wrapped in bank-issued paper bands, neatly labeled, 50 stacks deep, 70 stacks deep, in some places over 100. Agents started counting. 4 hours later, they stopped. The total was $220 million. Let that sink in. $220 million. If this is already blowing your mind, type "This is unreal" in the comments, because the next part is worse. Every single dollar in that room was traced back to U.S. federal disaster relief funds, money allocated after earthquakes and hurricanes tore through Baja California 3 years earlier. Funds meant to rebuild homes, repair water systems, support displaced families. Instead, that money had been rerouted, washed through shell contractors, approved by municipal offices, laundered through international banks, and then stacked neatly beneath the mayor's house. The people never saw it. Not one rebuilt neighborhood, not one restored system, just a city quietly bleeding while its leader built a private war chest. But while agents were still counting the money, the rest of Tijuana was waking up to sirens, and the city was about to realize just how deep this went.
At 4:45 a.m., DEA teams hit a warehouse near the Otay Mesa border crossing. From the outside, it looked legitimate. Freight company logo, delivery schedules posted on the wall. Inside, they found 3,000 kilograms of crystal meth, vacuum-sealed bricks stacked on pallets. Then the pills. Over 2 million fentanyl tablets pressed to look like prescription medication. Stored next to 600 kilograms of powdered fentanyl, hidden inside industrial drums labeled as agricultural fertilizer. Street value? More than $400 million. 14 minutes later, in the Zona Norte district, a joint FBI and ICE team breached a residential property flagged as a way station. Inside, they found 14 women and 6 children, locked and reinforced rooms, barred windows, deadbolted doors. Medical teams rushed in as translators tried to calm them. Most were migrants from Central America. They had been promised safe passage north. Instead, they were held, exploited, prepared for forced labor and trafficking networks. Encrypted messages recovered later confirmed something chilling. Municipal police had been ordered to avoid that address entirely. No patrols, no responses, just silence. If you're still watching right now, don't scroll. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. This matters. At 4:55 a.m., agents stormed a luxury restaurant in the Zona Rio district. the kind of place politicians and business elites loved. The staff was closing after a private event. In the back office, 3 cartel coordinators were counting cash and reviewing shipping manifests. But behind a false kitchen wall, a hidden server room, encrypted communications, financial tracking systems, real-time route management software for drug convoys moving through the San Diego corridor. When cyber forensic teams accessed the data later, they didn't just find messages, they found the digital skeleton of the entire operation. Every bribe, every shipment, every compromised official, every decision signed off by Mayor Villarreal himself. By 6:30 a.m., Operation Iron Curtain had secured 15 primary locations, 63 arrests, narcotics worth over $600 million seized. But the operation was far from over, because what was inside those servers revealed something far more dangerous than drugs or money. It revealed a city that had been quietly rebuilt from the inside out, and at the center of it was the police force. If you're ready, the next section exposes the shadow police system and how emergency services were manipulated.
The servers didn't just show shipments, cash flows, or hidden labs. They revealed something more chilling, a city that no longer obeyed its own laws. Encrypted communications between Mayor Villarreal and senior officers in the Tijuana Municipal Police spelled it out. Patrol units were pulled from certain districts during scheduled cartel convoy movements. Response times to overdoses and emergencies were deliberately delayed. Officers received monthly payments disguised as overtime, but every payment matched the exact dates when drug shipments crossed the border undetected. One file contained a complete roster, 83 officers, from street patrol to deputy chiefs. Payments ranged from $5,000 to $30,000 per month, depending on access level. Logs were falsified. Incident reports never filed, surveillance footage deliberately erased, and the city had its own secret surveillance network, separate from official police systems, designed to monitor federal agents, track rival cartel movements, protect the mayor's logistics empire. This wasn't corruption in the usual sense, it was construction of a parallel government, a shadow police force answering only to the cartel. The citizens of Tijuana weren't living under government oversight. They were living under cartel oversight, disguised as government. One senior FBI analyst, Robert Chen, veteran of organized crime investigations, leaned back from his monitor and said what everyone in the room was thinking. This is not a cartel using a city. This is a cartel that bought a city. And the mayor wasn't just complicit, he was the operations manager. The data didn't lie. Contracts for municipal reconstruction were awarded to companies that existed only on paper. Invoices submitted for work that was never performed. Payments approved by municipal officials on the cartel payroll. Money flowed offshore, converted into cryptocurrency, returned as cash, used to fund further operations, bribes, and infrastructure. The city had been weaponized, and while the world saw Mayor Villarreal cutting ribbons at schools, the cartel had created a state within a state, invisible to ordinary citizens. Drop a comment if you can imagine waking up to discover the people sworn to protect you were actually working for the criminals they were supposed to stop. But even this wasn't the final shock. Buried deeper in the encrypted servers was a plan that would have replicated Tijuana across the entire border region. If you're ready for the next escalation, we move into the blueprint, the expansion protocol, showing how the cartel planned to turn corruption into a scalable model.
Buried in the deepest layers of the encrypted servers, investigators found a file labeled Expansion Protocol. It wasn't just a plan, it was a roadmap for turning Tijuana into a prototype and then repeating it across the entire U.S. Mexico border. The file outlined a 5-year strategy: identify vulnerable municipal elections before they happened, fund compliant candidates, build networks of compromised officials before they even took office, establish legal frameworks that allowed cartel operations to function behind the facade of governance. This wasn't a city failing. This was a city purchased and engineered to be a logistical hub for narcotics, trafficking, and financial exploitation. Every department had a role. Fire and EMS services delayed in specific neighborhoods. Police patrols pulled on command. Municipal contracts awarded only to shell companies tied to the cartel. The expansion protocol also included a mapping system. Cities along the border were ranked by vulnerability, political instability, financial opacity, law enforcement loyalty gaps. Tijuana wasn't the end game, it was the prototype, a blueprint meant to be deployed within 18 months along the entire border region. And it worked because it wasn't violent. It was strategic infiltration, bribery, blackmail, leverage, and coercion. Mayor Villarreal wasn't just running a cartel operation, he was training a new model of government control. Pause for a second. If you're watching this and thinking, how do you even stop that? Leave a comment saying this is next-level corruption, because the next part shows how deep the human cost goes.
Money, power, and strategy are one thing, but what made this operation truly monstrous were the lives it destroyed. Investigators found records linking the cartel network to over 300 overdose deaths in San Diego County alone during the previous year. Documentation of 78 women and children trafficked through humanitarian shelters controlled by the mayor's network. Evidence that municipal ambulances were deliberately delayed in cartel-controlled zones. The fentanyl pills, the meth shipments, the trafficked children. None of it was by accident. It was part of a system designed to maximize profit and minimize exposure. Federal agents, standing in the ruins of a fentanyl superlab, tried to process the scale of what they'd uncovered. One agent, a father of 3, whispered to a colleague, "This is what happens when power becomes invisible. When corruption is so complete, it looks like governance." The mayor's empire didn't just exploit the law, it became the law. And what happened next, after the initial raids, would shake everyone to the core. If you're ready, the next section reveals the final dossiers, the personal leverage over judges, politicians, and business leaders. This is the part that proves the cartel controlled more than just Tijuana's streets.
3 days after the raids, forensic analysts finished decrypting a set of files labeled political assets. These were not financial records, not shipment logs, not contracts. These were detailed dossiers. Judges, legislators, business leaders, law enforcement officials across the border region. Each file contained personal information, financial vulnerabilities, family connections, evidence of compromising behavior. Some officials had been bribed, some blackmailed, some coerced through threats against their families, and some simply cooperated because it was the smarter path. Mayor Villarreal had built his empire not just through violence, but through strategic infiltration, campaign funding, favors owed, leverage accumulated slowly, silently, invisibly. By the time the raids began, the city wasn't being run by a mayor anymore. It was being run by a cartel, with a city council, police, courts, and public works department at its disposal. And yet, to the citizens, it still looked normal. Ribbon cuttings, press conferences, promises of prosperity. The contrast was staggering. This was corruption elevated into an infrastructure. And the most dangerous part? It wasn't just Tijuana. The expansion protocol was ready to replicate this model city by city along the U.S. Mexico border. Hector Villarreal is in custody. Assets seized, hundreds arrested, hundreds of millions recovered. But the lesson is larger than one man. When corruption becomes invisible, it becomes untouchable. When power and organized crime merge seamlessly, it becomes the system itself. Operation Iron Curtain stopped the Tijuana prototype, but the files show the blueprint still exists. A city can be bought, a government can be weaponized, and the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, can be destroyed without anyone noticing until it's too late. If you're watching this, here's what you need to ask yourself. How would you know if your city is next? Who really controls the systems you trust? And how much is happening while the public only sees smiles and ribbon cuttings? If this video shocked you, leave a comment telling me what part blew your mind the most. And if you want the next video exposing similar operations in other border cities, hit the like button and subscribe, because this story is far from over.